Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 713, recorded today, Wednesday the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you and all of that, the lispy Star Wars quote. I'm being told that there's something weird going on with my sample rate, so I do apologise. There's not really much I could do while we're in the middle of the show, so you just have to make do with me being slightly out of sync and slightly more Darth Vader, which I suppose is appropriate considering that it is May the 4th. Anyway, this is the show to do with music technology. It's a podcast, a round panel discussion. We talk about music production, instruments, synthesizers, releases, software, recording, live, all the kind of things that surround the making, creating and distributing of music, electronic or otherwise. We want to say thank you very much to our friends over at Baby Audio and also iZotope for supporting the show. There'll be messages from them later and savings, much savings. So we'll say hello. Oh yes, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat, in the IRC, and also in the Discord, and thank you for joining us, and also everybody who is supporting us on Patreon, which you can join us there. Patreon, marvellous affordability. I know I've been a bit lax recently, apart from just the ad-free stuff, just because we're heading up to Super Booth, but there will be a ton more stuff up there. Patreon.com/Sonicstate. You can join us. In fact, if you get in before the end of the show, your name will appear in lights in the credits, which is because it's all automatically done, assuming at least that technology is working, right? So anyway, let's get on to introduce our guests. We'll go over to see Mr. Dominic Hawken, aka Mr. Wiggly, who is maker of fine plugins, also has his own Sunday live show, which he's been building up an audience. What birthday are you at now?
The next one will be number 50, when allegedly you promised to be on there, but that's not for a few weeks.
Sunday.
So you don't have to
not
worry.
for a few weeks.
That's a proper 50th though. Is a proper birthday, so it'd be great if you happen to be on there. It's about 4 or 5 weeks away, so there won't actually be one this Sunday. I'm going to a really good friend's birthday party, but the Sunday after we're kicking off again, so that's good. So yeah, you got get Super Booth out of the way and all the rest of it, and then we'll have a show in your honour, which will be cool. But apart from that, no, the plugin's going well, and yeah, I'm good. I just had a holiday, which is why I haven't been around for the last 2 or 3 weeks, which was splendid.
So jealous.
Really.
Well,
really
Super Booth is kind of my holiday, I suppose, which I'm looking forward to tremendously. I hope the weather's going to be good. Obviously, next week is Super Booth. For those who wonder, next Wednesday we arrive. I am going to be doing a live stream there. We're going to be doing a live stream every day, so I'm not quite sure how long they're going to be or exactly what's going to be contained in them, but that's the plan. And I want to say thanks. So actually, Soma Labs for supporting that one. They're the sponsors of that particular live stream. But yeah, we're going to be doing that, so stay tuned. And I think we may see Dom, we may not. Who knows? I think he's going to be there, so that'll be quite exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So if you happen to be there, look me up. I can't wait to meet you. There's loads of people that hopefully I might be around that I've only ever met through chat and stuff before. So please feel free to run up and accost me at any time.
Inevitably, that is what's going to happen. And also, we have Mr. Gaz Williams, or should I say Dr. Teeth? I don't know. Just say you're not Dr. Teeth, but I just like the fact that you're wearing a Dr. Teeth t-shirt that, with the colour, is sort of matching the bottom of your Mac screen over in the background as well. It looks great.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. That's what the band from the Muppets was called, the Electric Mayhem.
Nice.
And there's the gang there, but Floyd. Bassman, he's my man. Yeah, nice to be here, Nick. So Super Booth, yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to make it for just the first day, really. But the day before, though, in the evening, I am going to do my show from Super Booth.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that as well. So hopefully join in on a Sonic stream as well, but I'm really excited about Super Booth because as stuff is starting to come out, it's like, whoa, yes!
There are things. There are plans afoot and all of those things. So yeah, we're all hopefully going to try and get together and have a little bit of jolly or something or other. Anyway, so yes, well, I suppose we should perhaps move on to some actual thought of topics because there's. Oh no, sorry, what was that, Gaz?
I just wanted to just quickly say before, just because I think these things are worth mentioning, just because they're on a Kickstarter at the moment from My Vaults, and they just I just had them arrive today, so I was just kind of curious to show them. You've got a thing called the Pots and Pans, and then a thing called the Beat Splitter, and what these things do, ostensibly designed for the pocket operators, but like if you pop one of these into the output of the pocket operator, the pots and pans, it gives you a mute switch, but it also gives you a toggleable control for this top one, which will swap it between being a pan or a volume control. So that's kind of nifty. And then the other one, beat splitter, has got two outputs on, so you can put it in and then you can tap out either stereo or the left channel or the right channel from either of these independent outputs, which is kind of cool. But if you haven't got a pocket operator, what is also kind of cool, I thought, was MyVolts also make this really cheap little passive mixer called that mixer, and the mixer, they fit onto the mixer as well. So, for instance, you could put one on the input, and then if you had multiple ones, you can turn your mixer into various. Again, it's just passive.
Yeah.
But they
just useful utility. Yeah, like adapters that are very useful. Nice. Yeah. So that's on this Kickstarter by the looks of things.
But yeah, I've moaned a lot about mini jacks over the years, and in part that's because just accommodating mini jacks into your system is always frustrating. But these things go some way to making that mini jack world, a lot more kind of dealable with, really. And they're just a lot more sturdy. They look quite sort of, DIY, but they're actually really quite sturdy. So just wanted to mention that because they came today, and I love MyVolts. They seem to be really focused on trying to fix little niggly issues. Thanks,
absolutely.
Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I do like this. In fact, we use one of their ripcords to power our router at, because when we do a trade show, we're trying to basically have everything powered from a single USB multi-power. So it all comes from USB, and it needs to be, rather than take loads of adapters for power, we've got a big power block that's got like 7 outputs, and we just plug everything into that, including MyVolts, up volters and all of that kind of thing. So really, really useful stuff. Anyway, well, let's have a look. What's our first topic? I think it's a new synth, so maybe we should check that out. It's a 7 voice, 4-part audio MP, poly, built effects, double size, 4-part filter, I think there's a picture of it coming up soon. Maybe. Let's have a look. Oh, there it is. Desktop. And it's not too bad. It's like $14.99 US, which actually seems pretty reasonable. You can buy it already now. Nice to see new synths in the world. I'm a bit disappointed that, while it has got MPE and 4-part and an interesting voice count, 7 voice, which is kind of curious. Getting a little bit over 4-pole ladder filters, though. I would like to see some different mode filters. So I'm just curious as to what people think about this, because desktop synths definitely are a thing, and lots of people actually don't want any more keyboards. I don't know if you're one of those people, Dom.
Totally, absolutely. And I do like desktop synths in general over plugins because of the tactileness and the wonderfulness. This sounds great. 7 voices as well. I wonder why. It makes it stick out. It's not 6 and it's not 8. It's at the $1,500 price point. So maybe they reduced 1 voice to keep it within there. It's good though, because I now have my, 3 fingers left, or 2 fingers in the left hand, 4 fingers in the right, and I've got a spare finger, to for the notes to kind of carry over a little bit. So great, and it sounds good. It sounds on the demo kind of Oberheimy. It's got that bright, brash, cut through Oberheimy sound, which is great. And obviously everyone's favorite synth still seems to be like, the OB6 and that kind of thing. It doesn't sound exactly like that. It's not like a copy or anything. It just sounds good. So it's refreshing. It's also refreshing to see something that is in the shops available, or at least available to buy, rather than launching sometime next year or a Kickstarter or something like that. So new manufacturer, right? I think so. As far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So yeah, really nice. What can I say? I'm looking forward to that one, and it's the right price to me. I mean, clearly not everyone can afford to throw that kind of money around. It's a decent investment, but what looks like a very decent product. So I'm excited by that. It's a refreshing, nice thing to see for me.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm just going to try and remove something from my voice and see if that affects. Does this change anything? Has that made it?
It was.
It was totally blitzed when you were chatting over the
during the video. You couldn't hear.
What about now?
If there's any other audio going, it basically takes you out and you just turn into mush. So it's something to do with noise cancelling, I think.
Sample rate bit, yeah. Okay. Sorry about this, everybody. Okay, well, we'll try and get there. Gaz, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say it might be quite good, Nick, if you were just to sort of go over some of the key points that you said during the video playback, because we could.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, yes. I mean, seven voices, full analog path, four-part multi-timbral, MPE, which is built in, so you don't have to kind of. That's always a plus. Built-in effects. I think we've got chorus and delay, so not like masses. 2 VCOs with subs, 4-pole ladder filter. I hope it's got bass compensation, but it actually seems kind of reasonable and can be ordered. That's the sort of main thing. So, yeah, there. Yeah. Hopefully that was audible.
That was great. Really nice. This synth is sort of, it ticks so many boxes, doesn't it? That in terms of, I think the layout for a start, but just in terms of what you would really want in a modern polysynth, and especially that MPE compatibility. And I was thinking just how excellent that would be partnered with a Roger Lindstrument. I think that those two together would be just a beautiful setup. Because with the Lindstrument, you could really make use of the different, the multi-timbral sort of aspect of it, by dividing parts of the Lindstrument up to control different bits of it as well. And I think just the size of it together, those two would just be killer. That was my instant sort of thinking about it. I think it's there's a lot more in the market now, isn't there? In terms of polysynths, we had quite a long time where we weren't really getting many new polys, let alone analog polys. So the more the merrier in that respect. But it's kind of curious. Do they say this is the first polysynth ever to come from Argentina?
I don't think they have to. I'm pretty sure that must be the case because I can't think of anything else. I mean, there is the one thing it also mentions, which I didn't mention in the bullet points, is they've got this kind of high specification auto tuning and auto calibration. Because I was talking about this yesterday. I was on the Office Hours Global synth show yesterday, and one of the things came up was about calibration. And there aren't many manufacturers who manage to get that right, and consistently right. It's often an issue. Keeping analog polysynths in tune is quite often a problem. So maybe this has got something different going on.
I think the only thing, as I'm looking at it, I do prefer envelopes as sliders just because they look how they should. That would be my only sort of grumble, but. Otherwise, it's very well. It's just very well kind of everything. What's that? You got 3 LFOs and obviously 3 oscillators. It's just very comprehensive. I think it looks really nice, very drool-worthy.
Yeah, it does. Understood. It's cookies and cookies and cookies. Yeah, so there we go. That's the sort of the front panel of it. I think that's quite small, isn't it? There we go, around the back. I can't see how that's got multiple outputs, but anyway. Okay, well, it's there. So, but let's just have a little interjection from our friends over at Baby Audio, because I have them as they're a relatively new sponsor, so it'd be nice to get them in. Right, okay, let me just press my button. Okay. Yes, Baby Audio makes creative effects plugins designed to add colour and depth to your mixes. They won Plugin of the Year 2021 in Future Music and Computer Music Magazine, and were nominated for a Sound Slam Awards 2 years in a row. Try Smooth Operator, for instance, as a resonance suppression, equalization and compression plugin hybrid that automatically eliminates resonances and muddiness, allows you to shape your track's tonal response while the plugin automatically eliminates resonances in the background. Get 15% off when checking out with the code ST15. And once again, we thank them very much for their support. I hope when I turned them on, I was very conscious that actually the music might have been making my voice go weird and I wouldn't have heard any of that. I hope it was not, so I turned it down. Anyway, yeah, I want to say thanks very much to them. Much appreciated. Okay, let's see what's next in the list. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. I haven't actually got anything to play. Oh, yes, I have got something to play for this, so I'm going to do that. So let's just go. This is something that was nominated for the MIDI Innovation Awards in the hardware category. It's a great video. I mean, that kind of tells you everything you need to know. Basically, a full 88-key keybed that you snap together with magnets. And, you know, the video goes on to basically end up with him playing the last octave, and then that gets put in the bag. And there's his piano. It does say in the, I think, in the MIDI Awards, let's have a look, I think in the hardware ones, that is available. But I went to their website, this is it here, and I couldn't actually find, oh, that's not it there. That's the Piano de Voyage, it's the pocket piano I was looking at. But I couldn't find a price or any availability for it. But just there's a whole bunch of stuff on the MIDI Awards. I think one of the things that came up, if we look here, I think something we looked at last week, which was one of the plugins, which was Fluid Chords, which was the MPE kind of plugin that allowed different sort of pitch and mod rates to go between preset chords, which was kind of cool. I don't know if anyone had a chance to peruse some of the categories and see anything, Gaz. I mean, it's interesting to see. They've obviously got somebody new in PR at the MIDI organisation because it's dry as you like usually, and this is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, and so now I'm getting used to the new MIDI logo as well. So yeah, I mean, interesting. 100 entrants. So they go in. The vote then is what, from the May 1st to the May 14th. So you select 3 entries. So I think everybody should head over there and have a look at this, because this, I mean, the thing that surprised me about it was the amount of stuff that I haven't come across before. So, I mean, there are a bunch of things that everyone will be familiar with, but yeah, interesting. But I'm definitely going to be sort of poring over this to try and, well, certainly support the MIDI Association, because I think with MIDI 2.0 and various things they've been doing recently, anything that's kind of right, yeah, but to look for things that are supporting that. So I'm not sure if there's a way of filtering the information to see that. But yeah,
no, I don't think there is, to be honest. I think you just got to kind of suck it, but you can vote, and that's the main thing, isn't it? That's the key thing.
Mm-hmm. The headphone mix, always interested in things that can help with headphone mixes. Headphone Mix 4, that looks quite cool. I'd like to try that out. I'm trying to think what else. It's just tons of stuff on there, isn't there? But is this is an ongoing. We've had this before, haven't we? These awards, but it just feels just like maybe it's to do with what's happened over the last few years. There's been an explosion of interest in software.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, I mean, I think they do need to promote that, because MIDI 2.0, which is, you know, finally, I think they signed the spec off maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but we haven't actually seen an awful lot of hard or software that's going MIDI 2.0 enabled. You know, we're not seeing much of that yet. I know, Dom, you're more of the sort of in the development land. Are you getting spammed by library people trying to flog you MIDI 2.0 libraries for your application?
No. But then, you know, perhaps people are a little bit more laid back in that world. I mean, I definitely the promotional department in the MIDI Association are up and running. I wasn't too much aware of it before. I mean, MIDI is a standard. There is this MIDI org written at the top of all the specs, but as an entity, they've never been really particularly above my radar. I only come across their website if I'm trying to look up the spec of something. And this is great. I wasn't aware of these awards at all. It's all on MIDI.org if you fancy a look. And there are exactly what Gaz says. There's a load of stuff in here that I've never heard of before that's really intuitive. Bouncing ball MIDI devices. There's a thing for kids which you can, I think it's called Count Me In, where you can be part of the audience in shows and that kind of stuff. And at the bottom it says they've made this kind of prototyping kit, which is just the usual thing if you were buying like almost like a teensy starter kit or something, with solder points and plug-in points. And it's a 2.0 kind of prototyping kit that they're sending out to all the developers and members of the MIDI Association, obviously as a kind of prototyping bed to come up with some really good stuff. So that's what I think someone's probably sat down and said, "Oh, guys, exactly what you've just said. MIDI 2.0 has been around for a while. Are we sure everyone understands what it is, what it's doing, and more to the point that we're the guys behind it. We can support and push this thing." And this is kind of leapt up. It's fascinating. So I heartily endorse everyone to go and have a look. There's this fluid chords generator at the top from this company called Pitch Innovations.
It's got a really good demo.
Cool.
It was a really good. It's a really brilliant demo. Essentially, what just to recap, what it does is you program the chords on these steps, and then MPE will pitch bend all the notes to the next chord from the previous chord. So it sort of goes, and you can check the rate. I think the mod wheel changes the rate. It's really cool.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, it's brilliant. It's a really exciting kind of platform of unique stuff. And I mean, obviously we need to vote on this stuff as well. So to try and raise the profile of some of these people, it's a great way of getting involved and seeing what the MIDI association does. Really good thing.
So just to sort of add as an aside, well, I wonder what's holding MIDI 2.0 up. Do you think it's the fact, because obviously there's so much hardware out there with legacy MIDI 1.0 or whatever. I mean, do you think that's holding it back in a way? Because I mean, when it started, there was nothing there. So I suppose, it's kind of must be very frustrating for them. Gaz, I saw you nodding.
Well, I'm just curious if Superbooth will have any MIDI 2.0 on display. I think that's something that would be quite cool to see if we can find. If anyone has got something MIDI 2.0 to show, I'm definitely going to be on the snoop for that. So, it's probably a bit of chicken and egg, or it's one of these things, isn't it? It's until it's more widely used, probably manufacturers are going to be hesitant to delve in too deep. But oh my goodness, the promise of MIDI 2.0 though just is still so exciting to me. Curious. I mean, what are the development? Have you looked at the development tools, Dom? Is it accessible?
I think there's some issues on the Windows side if you're doing software, because theoretically I can imagine my hardware might be a little bit behind, but on the Windows side there are some limitations. But no, you see, it's not. I'm more on the effects side, but it's not really been on my radar. I don't think that's probably true for a lot of people, whereas, if it becomes a little bit more plug and play, it's like, it's a new thing when a keyboard comes around supporting MPE, like the Hydrasynth or something. We had a big buzz because of the support for that. And I think naturally stuff follows after that. But it is strange. It hasn't, I think this is what's going on with the MIDI Association. It's like we need to raise that profile and make sure people think of it as a natural thing rather than as an add-on, and make it easy for them to actually kind of use this stuff. And that would tend to be hardware-led, because you need that hardware.
Well, you say that, but I think it's gone by now. But in the chat, I think it was Steve Asselman said that basically that Windows support on the software driver side is the thing that's holding it back. So it really needs to be supported at an OS level on the major platforms, so that when it is talking, it's in that language, everything can just understand it in a kind of class compliant without any fancy extra business going on. So maybe that's an issue as well, because I mean, it's very hard to make major OSs kind of consider us poultry musicians. There was a couple of things in the MIDI hardware category which were interesting. There's the which is breaking out of traditional MIDI. I mean, we use MIDI to do all sorts of things here, but there's a PTZ camera which is PTZ Optics, I think it is, and they've just added MIDI 2.0 control, native control to that hardware, so you can control a PTZ camera, which is like a little robotic camera which has got a gimbal on it, and you can zoom and move it around. So things like that, once, as you said, Dom, when there's a sort of maybe a flagship piece of hardware, I don't know, let's say Hydrasynth hadn't come out yet and it was going to come out, and they went, here's Hydrasynth, it's got all this stuff and it's MIDI 2.0 compliant, then that would move things on a pace. But there's obviously nobody, it sort of feels like, it needs a bit of a developer adventurism, because obviously you put all that work in and then people take it home and plug it into their Windows PC that hasn't got MIDI 2.0 support, and they're going, oh, that's a bit disappointing.
Yeah. We've had it so easy for so long. So I was just going to say, we've had it so easy for so long as well. I mean, and as a control sort of surface implementation, from what you say, it's perfect. You can use MIDI control pads to control it, like OBS, for example, or absolutely anything. Point and zoom cameras, absolutely. It's just superb. And you can obviously move it on with OSC and stuff to do more in-depth stuff. But you don't get MIDI 2.0 as a standard kind of, now select which bits of MIDI 2.0 you want to include in this piece of software induced kind of thing, which would make it much, much easier. And then you just get a message that you have to process or not when MIDI 2.0 happens, which is what you do at the moment with MIDI. So, yeah, I think it needs to be kicked on a bit. They're obviously aiming at the hardware guys with this prototyping kit with a view to then your software is going to have to support this. Otherwise, you're missing a trick. Whereas at the moment, your software supporting it is a bonus, and that's clearly not the best state to be in.
Agreed. Yeah. Sorry, Gats, you inhaled.
The noise machine, what's it called? The NMSVE thing is quite funny. It's a really small MIDI, Bluetooth MIDI controller with some buttons, a knob, and a slider.
Is that hardware?
Hardware, yeah. Just sort of just looks quite. It's a really tiny little pocket thing. What's it called? NMSVE. Noise Machine Straight Vibing Edition, it stands for.
That's not it.
Yeah, it's just I've not seen anything quite like it as a tiny little Bluetooth controller. Apart from going to Berlin next week, I'm also going on tour. I'm flying back from Superbooth, go straight on tour, and I'm always struggling to squeeze in all the kind of music tech I want to take with me. So, often kind of just think, iPhones and iPads or whatever are just so fantastic with the software. So, but yeah, that tangible, physical, hands-on control is always kind of good. So yeah, this little thing looks quite nifty. You didn't find that? Shall I send you a link to it?
I'm just sort of trying to see if I can. Oh, it's good to see the nano boxes there. Yeah. Innovative hardware, that was good.
Yeah, there it is. In the middle there.
The Noise Straight Machine Vibing Edition. Okay.
Yeah. So just
interesting.
It's just a simple little device, really, but tiny little thing.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, anyway, I suppose that's it's worth perusing because there's just a lot of really interesting stuff there for sure. What shall we do next? Well, actually, I'm going to go here. What's the time? 29. Yeah, okay. So let's try this one. I don't think my links are working. I think I might have messed up we were talking about YouTube authorization before the show, and I think I've broken mine. So it's not working anymore. Okay, well, anyway, let's. So this is vid 3. Let's go bring PaulStretch back in and see. Maybe bring some more harmonic. This is PaulStretch. Before it got broken by the latest. I get this kind of chord, which I can hold for as long as I maybe want. So yeah, this is PaulStretch. That was I did a Friday Fun Jam with the Crotus Audio. I forgot what it's called, but it kind of broke. The latest version of the operating system broke it. But now you can actually get PaulStretch is back. PaulXStretch. It's available. It's been sort of rejigged. It's multi-platform. It works. It's free at the moment. It works on M1, AVST, Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, and I think it does work on Android. I thought it said that. PaulStretch is a really cool bit of software. Actually, it's like a big recording buffer, but it's got all these kind of like shimmer taps and stuff, so you can take the grains and transpose them and create some really beautiful things. And I just thought, yummy, I'm glad it's back. And that's got I did a load of MIDI control with that, and it really made it very performative. I don't know if have you ever tried PaulStretch, Dom?
Oh, I haven't, and I was started off down the rabbit hole just before we went live, so it's new to me, but it looks great. It's a great name as well. Is it by PaulStretch by any chance? I mean, his name should be PaulStretch.
No, actually, no, this is by the people who made Thumb Jam. Sonosaurus have done it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
no, really good. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to check it out, but it looks brilliant. It looks really easy to use, and yeah, no, clearly it's a good thing. I think it's M1 compatible now, isn't it? I think it's that.
I think so. Yeah,
I need to check.
And iOS.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, and iOS. Yeah, Gaz, I think you'd like. If only you could put it. That would be something I would recommend for your live stuff. Just be able to mess with that and maybe run it on an iPad or an iPhone, because the stuff you could do with it is beautiful, especially for modular. Create these huge textures and whatnot. Thoroughly recommend it.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, these things, they just kind of find beauty within any kind of sound. I remember years ago stretching a snare drum for, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes or something, and then it taking on kind of cello-like sort of tones, and it's just amazing what you can find within there. So, so this having a nice update. I'm just looking on. If you want it for iOS, it's you can only do it through if you have Test Flight installed. So it's that allows you to put beta software in, or beta software. And I've just done it now. I've just got it on my iPad in front of me, and I am going to dive in after the show. Yeah, really cool. And just try putting all sorts of stuff through it, and just finding music in the most unlikely places.
Well, I think it first came to my attention. We had it as and I seem to remember the show title, because somebody stretched Justin Bieber down by 800%. Or not down, but to 800, short, but lengthened it by 800%, and it created this amazing harmonic sort of beautiful harmonic thing that just didn't sound. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't have sounded anything like. So it's kind of like time stretch is where you're basically stretching the sample out so much, but not changing the pitch. And you just pull out all these kind of grains and harmonics. It's a really, if you've not used granular synthesis before, it's maybe a good way to get in and go, oh, I see, maybe that's, it's a good enabler, maybe a good starting point for some of you if you're interested. Definitely well worth checking out. And it's free. I think you can donate, but right now it's not going to cost you anything, as far as I can tell.
I just realised it's full source code available. It's open source, which is something I didn't realise. So it's a full Juice-based cross-platform thing. So if you're getting into coding this kind of stuff, that is a fabulous thing to look at to get your head around how to start it. I mean, obviously it's quite a complex project, but coming out the other end is a fully cross-platform thing with a sampler, with time stretching involved. And it will compile on your Mac. You can just go and download for free all the software, and you can watch how this thing is actually made, which is superb. I was just going to say the wonderful Morphogene, the modular Morphogene is where I first found kind of stretching like that, where you can do it just by turning a knob down to 0. So you could put Justin in there and just turn him right down to the bottom. So it's very, very slow, but it is amazing. And it's a great way of losing half a day. If you just want to get in there.
Well, everything takes so much longer. Imagine if you take a 3-minute pop song and stretch it and make it 8 times longer or 800 times longer, then it's going to take much longer to get to the fade out, isn't it?
Totally.
It's also nice just to give a shout out about Thumb Jam again, though, because Thumb Jam was one of the very first iOS apps that was kind of useful, really useful and musically useful, and developed quite a lot in quite a short period of time, and is still an ongoing thing. It's not one of these apps that's been abandoned. And so if you are an iOS user, it's just worth it, because it's so old now. It's vintage iOS. It still is like it's a little crude, the interface in a way, but it's absolutely the power and the creative potential of it is still absolutely huge. So it's really nice to
remember when we did the iOS show that you brought in and you were raving about it, and it was great fun, wasn't it? They really kind of thought about a kind of new interface ideas.
Yeah, you know, the way that you can kind of stretch and change the kind of playing surface for, you know, a multi-touch idiom is still kind of hasn't really been beaten yet. I think it's still kind of the best for that. I think
had an onboard sound source, didn't it? It wasn't just a controller.
Yeah.
You could use it in control.
You could put it's samples in there, and it was a really good sounding sample engine in there. You know, you can do a lovely polyphonic sort of chords and you can split it, and they can have multiple sound engines at the same time, and there's an absolute bounty of stuff it can do. And yes, it's amazing. In fact, I've just had a little look at it again now to make sure it still opens and plays back. I don't think there's been an update for a while, but it still works fine on the latest iOS. But yeah, definitely worth looking at, because it's and you can use it as a Bluetooth MIDI controller as well. Par excellence, actually, I should mention.
I'm just looking to see whether or not it's where it's been updated, because isn't there some talk of the iOS store basically dropping stuff that hasn't been updated for a really long time, which is quite scary.
Yeah, if it's 3 years, that's a really short time.
Yeah, quite a lot of Apple apps haven't been updated for 3 years, so maybe that'll be a problem. Ban themselves. Yeah, hopefully not. I'm just looking to see. It doesn't say when it was updated. Maybe too busy on PaulStretch.
Yeah, they also do that Drum Jam as well, which again is a really interesting, unique iOS app that's unlike anything I've ever seen. But what's really nice about Drum Jam is it's quite educational about all different kinds of global percussion styles. It's got like a built-in encyclopedia about the instruments as well, so you can really it's a wonderful app. So yeah, Sonosaurus, really excellent developers, definitely. Really cool.
Yeah, once again, apologise for my audio. There's lots of comments about that. I really don't know what's going on because I'm only hearing my local copy of it, so I do apologise. I hope it's audible, but it won't be like that next time, I promise, or at least I certainly hope not. Good grief, that would be terrible. Right, well, probably time for a word from our friends over at iZotope, I think, because they are, I think Prince Charles Alexander has a word he'd like to mention.
iZotope Producers Club is a one-of-a-kind membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse iZotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the iZotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on iZotope Producers Club, head to iZotope.com.
And while you're there, go to iZotope.com/Sonictalk, because that will actually, it doesn't seem to be working. Never mind. If you and use the code Sonic10 to claim your 10% off any purchase. But there's a special landing page that I thought when I pressed that button it would show up, but I'm afraid it doesn't. Anyway, we thank them for their support of the show. Very long time support. We've had a long relationship with them, and they're great people over there. Thank you to the chatties. Looks like we've got a couple of super chats. DJ Puzzle, hey Jason, nice to see you. Since we may may not be at winter now. I'm buying you a margarita. Thank you, mate. And I missed the other one. I guess that might have been Wagyu, because he's often very generous when it comes to it. So thanks for the donations. Right, what's next? Let's see. Well, we did PaulStretch. Let's go to Tim Shoebridge. He's on fire. Seems to be doing so many things at the moment.
Let's talk about polychaining. Polychaining is a way of taking two or more synthesizers and in some way linking them together so that you can play them as one. Now, not many synthesizers support polychaining, and when they do, it's a very individual thing. There are no standards. You can't just take two synthesizers and polychain them together. I mean, why can't we? Why can't we take any synthesizers we like and polychain them together?
Well, the answer is now you can, because Tim has created PolyChain DIY, which is essentially a router for joining multiple. I guess it's a plugin that you run, and it's just it's not true PolyChain in the form that all the parameters. Because in true PolyChain, what happens? You change patches on one. They generally have to be the same. Well, they would have to be the same synthesizer, and you put them in PolyChain mode because it dumps the sort of edit buffer to the next one, and then every time you change something, they all change at the same time. This just allows you to easily make a kind of PolyChain from a load of disparate synths. But he had a really cool thing. I think it's down here. Let me just see if I can find it a bit further down. There was he did something whereby is there a picture of it? I forget. Oh no, there isn't. But he had there's a PolyChain DIY controller, which what you could do there is you can create faders for sort of common things and then map those to the same on all the different synths, even if there's Tim seems to be coming up with all these sort of quite elegant, God, that's so obvious. Why didn't I think of that kind of plugin? And I think you get it for $39. Great idea. Again, Dom, he's actually outperforming you in the release stakes.
Yeah,
he's
the thing is, he actually does something. Do you know what I mean? He makes stuff and then he puts it out. I did it once, and then I've just been not putting it out since then. But I tell you what is brilliant is the user interface on these things, because it's complicated stuff. And his layout to me is brilliant. It's easy to see what's going on. And obviously the last thing he did was another MIDI oriented thing. So he's written this really nice, hardcore, solid MIDI engine sitting inside it. And then he's gone and looked at it and gone, you know what I could do with that? Yeah, this would be really useful. But he's built it in such a way that it's just logically laid out. It's simple. It doesn't have all these crazy graphics going on. It's exactly kind of what you want to see, and really useful if you've got a bunch of synths. Oh, I mean, it works with VSTs as well. So basically you can chain them all up, and then choose which notes or which sections of the keyboard or whatever influence different things. I'm not sure if you can do that in something like main stage or whatever. I think possibly you can do something similar, but as a live performance thing, or to layer up stuff, or to just play around, you could drop it in with modular stuff, anything you want. It's really nice. And he you took the words out of my mouth. It's like, God, why isn't there something that already does that? But it doesn't. It's not just a kind of geeky thing. It's laid out in such a brilliant way that you just can't knock this stuff. I'm really excited to see what comes out next, and it definitely is spurring me into actually releasing another plugin. I've been testing my latest plugin out on your voice for the show so far. It seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, thanks for that, Dom. We're just joking, kids. Thanks very much, by the way, to Robarth Melted Cheese for a bit of a super chat star, and also we got Wagyu character. It doesn't show the sticker; it just shows the description of the sticker. Which is kind of, I guess that's just the way it goes. I mean, I haven't got that far yet. Anyway, but it looks kind of cool. I don't know, Gaz, some of these things, I mean, it's almost like a Eurorack module, isn't it? That kind of would, because we have MIDI controllers and polyphonic controllers that work. Eurorack, and I guess that they would do similar or some similar features to this, but this is just a cool widget.
Well, I mean, it would be fantastic if there was a way of porting this across into some sort of, into a Raspberry Pi, or, making some kind of hardware version of this, if there was any way to do that. I think that would be.
I wonder if
cool.
RetroKits do it already, maybe, because they did those things which are basically little chips built into MIDI cables that are powered by the MIDI bus. So maybe.
Right. That's right. I mean, yeah, because those RetroKits have done lots of things like that have enabled polychaining. They did that, didn't they, with the Digitact a long time ago, making the Digitact essentially a polyphonic, can turn it into polyphonic synth. But yeah, I mean, my interest at the moment is so far away from software, so I'm sort of a little bit not exactly in the right market for this. But if it was hardware, like a little hardware box, then I would really enjoy that. 'Cause lots of different mono synths around, and sort of creating a big poly monster with them all, I think would be really, really good fun. So, but I mean, Tim's really good though, isn't he? Because he's a musician as well. So that idea of a musician, and much like Dom as well, but being a developer coming from a musician's perspective is always really, really cool. So big thumbs up that he's doing that, indeed. But yeah, let's get a hardware version of it, and then I'll be into it.
Yeah. Rich Hilton in the chat says Blue Cat Audio says Rich Hilton said that Blue Cat Audio does it. I'm just trying to find it's gone past. There's so much chat. It's great, but I missed it. Sorry, Dom.
I was just going to say, Steve Elbows is on fire in the chat as well. He's saying he's using Voltage Module Designer from Cherry Audio, which is a Java-based web development kit. So it's another thing like Juice to code this stuff in. And there's no reason why you couldn't put this into a Pi or a Teensy or anything like that. It would be a relatively easy thing to do. But just a question for Gaz is what would it look like? Would you be happy to plug a laptop in with that to actually configure it, or would you want lots of knobs and buttons all over the top to make it work for you as a hardware thing?
Well, you can get.
I don't expect you to have all the answers.
Well, you can get those little screens for a Pi, can't you? You could get like a little Pi with a screen on it.
You kind of want it to be something that you were tactile with, if it was a hardware version rather than something. I think so. Yeah. Okay.
If it was one of those Pis with one of those little tiny touch screens on there, and then connecting clearly to some sort of MIDI box. So I mean, it would, so it starts to get
would you really want to be programming kind of complex splits and layers and note things on a tiny little screen, or would it make more sense to load presets into a module that you would then use performatively? Because while you're composing, you would set it up the way you want, and then you'd store that and you would recall it. I would venture, I think, trying to make it into a tiny little thing, because you don't want it to be 12 HP to get all the controls. No, exactly. You'd want it to be like this big with kind of a button.
Oh, you're
patch.
Talking about it in Eurorack then, are you, Nick?
Oh yeah, I was maybe. That's
I was thinking of it as like a little standalone little, Pi type thing with a touchscreen.
Either's doable, but it's obviously much easier to do it without all the knobs and stuff on it, and just have
there is the Sipario by the Italian company. I did it. I've got one somewhere. It's a little touchscreen thing, and that had 2 or 3 MIDI ports plus USB ports, and they did a Pro version which had more, and you would just be able to create splits and layers and routings, and split things by velocity, set certain control. I don't know if it would do poly chaining kind of things, because it would need to know how to, I suppose it wouldn't be that hard to kind of go next note in, send it to the next one, and then when you get to the number the ones you've got patched, send it back to the first one. I suppose that wouldn't be difficult logically to code, but that's me saying it and not doing it.
No, I mean, I was just interested because those kind of things, all that stuff can be ported into Pis quite reasonably now, but usually the challenge is, the interface side of things, which is done so beautifully on this. And there might be, I think the latter that you described, Nick, which is, I've developed 10 of these now, I want to dump it into this box and have 10 presets, if you like, could be really useful. But well, we'll see. It's a lovely thing. Anyway.
You could use Tim's software to as the editor, maybe even.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. This is the first of our sort of leaks. I don't think I've got an NDA with Polyend, so hey, I don't really have to worry about it. But I think this was. So this is it was on Synth Anatomy, Polyend Play, which is a sort of leaked bit of hardware from Polyend, as we're big fans of their stuff, and it looks like these are some photos that have shown up on a guy's Instagram. There's there's the tracker on the left and the play on the right, which is more of a sequencer, which has got 8x20 pads, 15 encoders, and then later down there's a bit more of a close-up of it, and then it seems to be a mixer as well involved in this. So this is our first proper kind of bit of leakage, I suppose. Leakage, I think I might use that as a maybe that's a show title in there somewhere. Gaz, we had a look at the Polyend tracker. It's you've got that beautiful piece of hardware. If it's anything like that, yummy.
Yeah. I mean, Polyend, one of the most exciting companies in music tech, without a shadow of a doubt. They're ambitious, innovative, and unique. There's no one like them. And I think the thing about the tracker, which, as you mentioned, fantastic build quality. When you use the tracker, there's a real satisfying, relationship that you have with it that I'm sure is going to carry across to this. But the thing about the tracker being the tracker is it's always going to be slightly niche. So I'm thinking that there's quite a logical progression from the tracker. I mean, what's good about this is it doesn't contradict the tracker. The tracker can coexist quite nicely alongside this. We don't know very much about this, or certainly in public, we don't know much about this. But knowing Polyend, the ambition of it will be fantastic. So I like to call these devices infinity boxes. It's something that I've been pushing for a number of years now. There's this idea that a groove box is a little bit too limiting for some devices, but in order to qualify for infinity box status, there's a bunch of things that it has to do that sort of takes it away from a device that's sort of funneling you into making dance music, like polymetric, being able to have full length audio tracks, etc., various things. So I think this is going to be shown at Superbooth, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah, we have an appointment. So
I think this is going to be one of the things really that there's going to be a lot of excitement about. But also, to be fair to Polyend as well, they've been really good with developing their products with firmware updates, and sometimes, like when the Medusa came out initially, some of the shortcomings of it, not only were they addressed with the updates, the functionality of it just kept on growing and growing. And then there was like a kind of late in the day sort of upgrade of Medusa, which brought in like a full FM engine into it. So I think it's worth mentioning that regarding Polyend, because whatever this turns out to be is probably going to also develop in its lifetime as well. So I think kudos to them for that kind of approach. And also, innovation has been absolutely key with Polyend. The Perk Pro, the little solenoid sort of drummer things that they made.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic things that, very brave as well to bring them to market. I mean, the Medusa still is one of the most unique and unusual synths that's ever come out, as far as I'm aware, and a future classic as well. Mark my words. So I think let's see what this is like once the full reveal happens. But I'm definitely excited about it. And I should mention as well, there is a new Polyend tracker update as well. It's just in beta at the moment, but introduces a few cool things, including a new delay, a filtered delay.
Yeah, it's a really innovative. I wouldn't want to be sitting next to somebody on a train who was playing with that, because it really is clickety clackety. It's like playing an old school keyboard, an old quality keyboard.
I've used it on a plane. And I've used it on a train as well. And I do try to be a little bit softer with my, not getting too clicky clacky. Yeah. But yeah.
I know, Dom. Yeah. Have you? Sorry, Dom. Have you had a look at any of the Polyend stuff? I mean, I know that they make such a variety of things.
Yeah, the tracker. I've been getting more and more into trackers. I love this stuff. I don't own any, but yeah, the build quality, I've tried them, and they're just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. The obvious analogy here, I think, is with the Deluge, which was one of my very early kind of when I was first getting into YouTube and stuff. One of my first things that I did some videos on, which have just they've got so many views now because when they came out, they were groundbreaking. There was a number of things that they did which were just kind of unique. Things like we're not going to limit the number of tracks. You just put as many as you can in until we run out of processor. And again, as what's effectively a small boutique company, I guess, they were really hot on updates, and that slowed down recently, although ironically the latest version literally came out last week, so I think they've been rushing to get that out before Superboost, and introduces things like wavetable synthesis and all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's a brilliant example of the processes inside these things can just literally be pushed and pushed and pushed. And exactly as Gaz has said, whatever this thing comes out with, I'm sure will have changed in a year's time. But the edge was, I think it's fair to say the edge was slightly taken off of Deluge, where the innovation slowed down a little bit as a result of them being, a relatively small company. And the box is still amazing and far, far ahead. But in the meantime, obviously the MPC had that great software release, and something like this, depending on what it does, is going to be, it's going to offer a lot of bang for buck, I think, in that kind of realm. So Deluge were definitely, I would say, first through the door with a genuinely kind of groundbreaking take on the Groove Box idea. And it really is an infinity box. You can stream from this, you can do everything on it. And if this does anything similar with that screen, which is the key differentiator here, I think they're really onto something. And clearly the tracker, they've learned a lot from the tracker. It's a brilliant bit of kit. And again, what Gaz is saying, it's always going to be niche. Trackers aren't for everyone. They are slightly geeky. They don't think in a particularly, they think in a certain musical way, which is not necessarily music in the classical sense, whereas this looks like it can really move over into the mainstream. So yeah, really excited. I can't wait to see this one. I think it's brilliant that it's actually out there ready to see, and I'd be really interested to see how much of, say, the Deluge functionality it's got or further innovation that it's got. So really cool, really, really cool.
Definitely. I did post a little bit of a poll there, clickety clackety or Superboost leakage for the two show titles. So fill your boots there if you're on YouTube. Of course, eventually we'll be able to do this sort of, it'll be platform agnostic, and you won't have to be on YouTube to vote, but I haven't got round to doing any of that yet. There's a lot of things on the list before Superboost. We're going to be heading out there on Wednesday morning. We'll be there in the afternoon. We'll be setting up, then we'll do a show, I believe, on Wednesday 5ish. Then there's the party afterwards. Then we got to go to the hotel and do it. So it's going to be quite full on, and I'm hoping we can all have a lot of fun there. I'm sure we will. So if, as Dom said at the top of the show, if anybody of you lot are out there, come and say hi. There'll be loads of us there, lots of Sonic talkers, and myself and Andy and various other people, Ed. So we'll have a good team. So yes, I suppose it feels like this might be a time to consider the show. But I actually had a top tip because I did introduce this a while back, but I didn't actually use it, and I'm just going to throw that up there because I discovered that this actually came out. We use this live for our show stuff, and it's the Røde Go mic or Go 2 wireless Go 2, and it's two mics and a receiver, really tiny little 2.4 gigahertz thing. Loads of really useful stuff in it. First thing is, each of these will record up to 7 hours. So basically, if you cock up the recording or your camera's knackered, whatever, you've still got the SD card or the card. It's that fixed storage in there. But the other thing is, the transceiver, the receiver rather, has a USB audio, USB-C, and it works as a USB audio. So you can just plug it directly into your phone or your laptop, and those two mics will come in charge. The only thing it doesn't do, which I think would be really awesome, is if it had a USB audio return. So when you were doing it that way, you could hear an audio return coming out of the headphones. It would be perfect because it would be basically a 2 in, 2 out audio interface as well as all the other things it does. And I just wanted to do a shout out for it because it's so. I know, Gaz, you actually just you've just jumped and got it for your system, right?
I've just got one. Yeah, so I've been out testing it over the last week or so, and I completely agree. Though, if you did have that USB return, it'd be fantastic. I don't know if that's something that they could add, but yeah, really good and really good sound quality given that they're really, really tiny, small mics. But I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be sort of roving around Superbooth with, I'm going to see if I can do it with my phone and with one of those. And I've just got the little microphone dish. You can click one of the mics into a little mic handle. So you'll see me bombing around Superbooth with one of them. Yeah, but really cool little things. It's got me thinking as well. If it could just, I haven't tried it yet, but if you can put line level into it and just use it as a little wireless.
You can put mics extra. You can put like lav mics into it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, you probably need some more stuff for that to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I know, Dom. I thoroughly recommend them. Honestly, I don't know if they
How much are they?
Initial one. Couple £100, I think. So they're not totally cheap.
Yeah, 230 quid. You get 2 mics and the receiver for that.
And the batteries last, what, a few hours?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the recorder will record 7 hours, so I don't know how long the battery would last.
Not a great thing.
I did
an absolutely great.
I used it for the Golf Wrap rig tour I did with Hazel, and I didn't realise, but the camera I had this really aggressive noise shaping on the audio input, so it was like, and it made it really unusable. But because I had the recordings on the actual bass units, it was no problem. I just found the spots and dropped the raw audio back in, and it saved the gig. You know, so really good.
I think that must be next on the Wiggly shopping list. That's really, really cool. If I buy it, you can guarantee the new version with the fold back into your headphones will be out next week. So I'll take one for the team.
One test I'm going to do, Nick, with mine is because the 2 mics record sort of into each one separately, you can set whether it records a compressed audio or if it records uncompressed. So you get 7 hours of uncompressed audio or 25 hours of compressed audio.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you have to enable that in the software editor, the software app that you can get for it. But I'm really kind of curious to set one mic to be compressed and one mic to be uncompressed, and then just record the same thing and then load that into a DAW and just do a comparison to see if that just how much difference the compression makes to it. I think with speech, it's probably not going to be too bad to use that compression algorithm, really. But yeah.
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, all this. I said the guy whose speech is really dreadful today because he's got a problem with his audio interface. So in my case, maybe it would make a difference. But yeah, that was just a little tip that I wanted to add in there for because I'm going to bring that back. I've got all these ideas that I just keep forgetting to carry on. Anyway, Dom, you haven't got a show on Sunday? Or have you?
No, I'm off for a birthday party on Sunday, so any excuse. No, it's a guy I've known for years and years, all through the days of kind of the Boy George keyboard playing. So it'll be a little celebrity birthday party, which would be fun, and then back to normal for next week. So, excellent. Which will be fresh back from Super Big, right?
And Gaz, are you on today?
Yeah, I'm going to be on today. I'm going to follow up. Last week, I ended up. I just was repatching my modular, and I ended up at the end of the show just yanking out all the cables completely. I've repatched it all now, and using the handy little cable portals, or cable sausages, as I think some in the chat room would like to call it. So I'm going to show what my live rig. I've completed it now. I think it's. I've been tormented. This is the thing in modular, tormented by 1 HP. I could just leave it, but I couldn't leave it. So now it's all jam-packed full. And today I had a 3 HP module come that's kind of finished it. I'm going to try now not to switch out anything out of this now. It's
Or
gonna
ever, or just for the show?
well, until the gigs that I've got, I'm going to try and keep it so I can learn it and try it. So incidentally, one of the last modules that I did put in was a Disting Mark IV, and it's currently not doing anything. It's just sitting there waiting in the wings. But of course, the Disting is a do-it-all module that, so I just thought, okay, I'm going to put that there, and then if I'm like, whatever it is that I need, then the Disting probably is going to be able to do it. But I have to say, and I mean, I don't mean to plug these cable portals too much, but it's just like when I use the cable, it'll all be revealed tonight. But the cable portals have just made it all super nice. Let's see if I can lift this up.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Technomatic in the chat room said cable curlers, which I think is quite a good idea, isn't it? So they do look a bit like
I have to say, I watched Gaz's stream, and Gaz kept, because basically it was just Gaz wasn't really sure what he was doing, taking his thing apart and putting new modules in and chatting and saying, oh, you're probably really bored watching this. And it wasn't, it was brilliant. It was the modular equivalent of an ASMR stream. I said something in the chat, like I could watch this for hours, and Gaz thought I was taking the mickey out of him, but actually just looking at Gaz kind of scratching his beard going, oh, there's one you missing. Like, what am I going to do now? Just perfect to have on in the background. You should just have a 24-hour camera running. It was really good. So, highly recommended.
Oh, cool.
Well, of course, it's like gaming, isn't it? That's why gaming is very popular. You just sit and watch people play games. Essentially it's a similar sort of process, I guess. Well, so Gaz Williams, I need to change that because it still says gazwilliams.me there, which is your website that hasn't been updated for quite a long time. So
God.
Gaz Williams on YouTube is the thing to look for, right?
Yeah, probably. That's probably the most active thing. Yeah, it's one of them things. I never did any homework ever when I was a kid, And I feel it's the same with updating my website. It's like, exactly the same. It's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same sort of, So, whereas like live streams are great, just do it and it's done.
All you need to do is put a widget on your website that takes your social feeds and puts that at the top, and just so you've got a stream of all your social stuff. So there's new content there, which is where you presumably do post sometimes.
Yeah, but even that sounds like homework.
All right. Okay. Well, that seems to be it for this week. Thank you very much for hanging in with me. I'm sorry about the audio quality. It does look rather like Clickety Clackety has won the show title, so that's what it's going to be tonight. Thanks for voting, everybody. But that's it for this week, Dom, and see you next week in Berlin. I don't often get to say that.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me. What a great show. Brilliant. And see you all next week.
And same for you guys, and I'm sure some of our viewers will see you later as well.
Okay, yeah, lush, and then see you in Berlin as well.
Okay, that's it for this week. I feel like I should have a catchphrase or something at the end, but I don't, so I'm not going to say anything apart from thanks for watching. See you next time.
Clickety-clack, we'll be back.
Oh, very